All right, I'd like to call the conference committee back to order. And we have Ms. Doyle-Fontaine. Okay. Why don't we go ahead and, are we on the economic development? Whoops. Are we on the economic development section next?
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and have Ms. Shalene start on the economic development policy.
Chair and members, in the economic development policy side-by-side, turning to page R1, House Section 1, this is House-only language that requires an annual report from DEED on legally mandated reports that no longer serve a useful purpose. To Ms. Doyle-Fontaine.
She's not here right now. Why don't we continue on?
I can continue presenting.
Yep.
So R1, this is Senate Section 1. This is Senate-only language that prioritizes high-wage, high-demand job training grants. Also on page R1, House Section 2. This is House-only language that creates the Office of New Americans to assist with the workforce integration of immigrants and refugees. Turning to page R4, Senate Section 2. This is Senate-only language that modifies eligible expenditures for funds appropriated from the Community Energy Transition Grants Program. On page R4, Senate Section 3, House Section 3, this is the same language that allows federally recognized tribes to participate in the Contamination Cleanup Program. Also on page R4, Senate Sections 4 through 6 and House Section 4, these are different provisions on the same subject that modify the pay-for-performance job training grant program to allow support services, limit repeat incentives for the same participant, and require provisions of records on request. The House language also restricts the incentives, or restructures the incentives into tiers of awards depending on the hours and pay rate of the job placement, limits the types of employment that qualify for incentives, and makes additional technical changes. On page R7, House Section 5, this is House-only language that amends the Main Street Economic Revitalization Program to add a capitalized loan option and allow the Commissioner to waive the matching fund requirement for projects in low-income areas. On page R12, House Section 6, this is House-only language that creates the Spark Small Business Loan Program to make loans statewide to small businesses through CDFIs. Turning to page R15, House Section 7, this is House-only language that allows DEED to make equity investments in early stage and venture capital funds for small and emerging businesses. Also on page R15, House Section 8, this is House-only language that increases the maximum grant amount for the Targeted Community Capital Project Grant Program. Also on page R15, House Section 9, House-only language that creates the Emerging Developer Fund Program to make loans to developers from targeted groups for projects intended to reduce racial and socioeconomic disparities. Turning to page R18, Senate Section 7 and House Section 10. These are the same language and define federal loan funds from the Department of Treasury as not being business subsidies. Turning to page R20, Senate Section 8, House Section 11. These are similar language that alters the language describing partners in the Pathways Program. The Senate language encompasses private businesses, tribal-owned businesses, and municipal and county hospitals. House language only mentions participating businesses. Turning to page R21, Senate Section 9, House Section 12. This is the same language that makes a technical change to the State Dislocated Worker Program. Is Ms. Doyle-Fontaine returned yet?
She has not.
I will continue reading the Senate sections as well then. Page R22, Senate Section 10. This is a Senate-only provision that requires grant recipient nonprofit organizations to report information regarding revenue, expenses, and compensation to DEED. Turning to page R23, Senate Section 11, House Section 13. This is similar language that makes a technical modification to the definition of credential for the purposes of the Uniform Outcome Report cards. The House makes additional minor change. Turn to page R23, Senate Section 12, House Section 14. This is different language on the same subject, making changes to the Uniform Outcome Report cards. The Senate requires a list of any grant recipients who did not satisfy all reporting requirements, whereas the House removes requirements to report information about the cost of programs. Turning to page R25, Senate Section 13 is Senate-only language that modifies requirements for notice provided to employees at the beginning of employment. Turning to page R27, Senate Section 14. This is Senate-only language that caps the penalty amount at 20 days for unpaid wages and unpaid commissions. Turning to page R28, Senate Section 15. This is Senate-only language that requires an annual report from DEED to the legislature regarding unemployment insurance overpayments. Turning to page R29, Senate Sections 16 through 20. This is Senate-only language that extends dates and make technical changes to the forgivable loan program for remote recreational businesses. Turning to page R30, House Senate Section 15. This is House-only language that establishes the Canadian Border Counties Economic Relief Program to make grants to businesses adversely affected by the closures of the Canadian border and the BWCA since 2020. Turning to page R31, House Section 16. This is House-only language that creates the Small Business Recovery Grant Program to make grants through a lottery to small businesses impacted by the pandemic and other economic challenges. Turning to page R34, House Section 17. This is House-only language that allows grant recipients of the Minnesota Investment Fund, Job Creation Fund, and border-to-border broadband programs to incur eligible expenses for up to 90 days prior to an encumbrance being established in the accounting system. Finally, on page R34, House Section 18, this is House-only language that makes the provisions of Chapter 16A that apply to general fund appropriations for capital projects no longer apply to projects under the Targeted Community Capital Project Grant Program. And that completes the side-by-side for economic development. And to Ms. Marta James to present the dissimilar policy articles in the labor and workforce development areas.
Before we get to that, Mr. LaFontaine, Ms. Shalene, I think covered the Senate provisions. Anything you'd want to add before we move on?
Not that I know of, Mr. Chair, but I will pipe in if there's something I
Great.
realize.
Okay, Ms. James.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Marta James from House Research, and I am going to go over the dissimilar policy articles. Each of these articles is a separate document, and so I will just go over them one by one very briefly. So starting with House Articles 3 and 4, this are House-only provisions, and they create the paid family and medical leave benefits program. Article 6 is a Senate-only provision, and Ms. Doyle-Fontaine was going to address that.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair and members, I was just going to say that Article 6 was the frontline worker Senate version of the bill, which is Chapter 50. So you've already done that work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Then turning to House Article 5, this would make a certain hourly school employees eligible for unemployment benefits between school terms. House Article 8 is another House-only article, conforms minutia penalties to federal law, and ties future fine increases to inflation. House-only Article 9 modifies and adds to existing laws addressing labor standards for agricultural and food processing workers. Then House-only Article 10, that would make technical changes to competitive sports licensing. Turning then to House-only Article 11, this article modifies the PERB effective date and treatment of data. House-only Article 12 requires at least a certain % of employees of contractors at oil refineries to have registered apprenticeship experience. Article 13, another House-only provision, would create an ombudsperson and committee at the Department of Labor and Industry to address agricultural and food processing worker wellness. Articles 14 and 15 are also House-only, and these are the earned sick and safe time requirements and enforcement provisions. And finally, Article 16, House-only, establishes safety requirements for warehouse distribution workers. And that's all of the articles. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Schleen. Any questions from committee members? Okay. Seeing none, we have about 10 minutes left. I don't think we're planning on going through the commerce provisions unless we could do it very quickly, but there's not a matching bill. So I think that concludes our agenda for today, unless there's any questions, any comments. Representative Noor, did you want to talk about our next meeting?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you can see, the House has been busy putting together very great bills, so I think we will start with the commerce on Monday to finalize that section, and then we will allow the commissioners to testify, and we'll also allow some of the provisions that we wanted to allow some individuals to come and testify. We'll send the agenda so we can discuss what will be ahead. So that will be the agenda for Monday. So just wanted to let everybody know we're coming back here on Monday at 1 p.m.
Okay. With that, members, we stand adjourned until Monday, 1 p.m.